Prequel. Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhood Podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are freestyling.
It's a very special episode. It's a very special Ruined Childhoods because we are not focusing on a specific film. This discussion could go nowhere. It could go everywhere. There will be tangents and tangents galore, and I don't know what to expect.
Would a tangent for me be a tangent?
A tangent, yeah. A jaunt. Just a jaunt.
Just a jaunt?
Yes.
Dan's very busy with directing the play at the school where he teaches. And, it's like, why put the pressure to do a full-on movie where we could just kind of talk more about our own personal backgrounds and also some cool news bits. So...
And I kind of have one more thing for the 39 steps.
Oh, yeah. Well, now that you're well into the thick of the actual productions.
Yeah. So we had we had a wonderful, successful opening weekend, sold out houses. Thank you. Socially distanced seating.
Great.
Good live stream audience. But so I think, and I apologize if I did or didn't say this on that episode, because I've been talking about the 39 steps so much that I don't know what I'm saying to who anymore. And I believe, though, that we did talk about the kind of comparison between Professor Jordan and Donovan in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yes, briefly, yeah.
Now, I happened to put on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade as I was getting some work done. It's a good background movie. I've seen it enough times where I don't have to look at the screen to know what is happening. Yeah. And when I do look over, it's usually something nice to look at. And it really, maybe there's some type of commentary track or interview or somewhere where Spielberg talks about it. And I know Spielberg definitely makes his tributes to his favorite directors in his movies. But as I was watching the movie, particularly the scene where Indiana Jones meets Donovan for the first time, and he goes, and it's this cocktail party. There's this fancy cocktail party happening in the middle of the day. Oh, just like in the 39 steps.
Yeah.
And it's funny because in the stage production, we have the part because Hannah is in Jordan's office and he's waiting and there's a party going on. So we have him just he opens a door and you hear this swinging jitterbug music in the background. Then he closes the door. It's entirely silent. The door, by the way, has no walls on either side of it. On our stage side, it is just a door. And he opens it, there's music, he closes it, there isn't. And then this whole meeting happens in the office. Mrs. Jordan comes in, sees Professor Jordan with the gun on Hannah in the 39 steps and says nothing about it. And the scene in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is very similar, except, of course, that Donovan doesn't reveal himself quite so soon. But there's this party going on in the background. The wife comes in the middle. I mean, he's not holding the gun or anything, but it's very,
I'm remembering it now that you're describing it. Yeah.
I found it so similar. And I thought that a lot of it was even funny because then, from there, and then right before he does find out, before Donovan does reveal himself, when they go to the castle, they go to the castle where his father's being held, and he breaks into the Scottish accent. He does this whole Scottish thing, which a lot of the 39 Steps is set in rural Scotland.
Yeah.
So there were all these little connections, both big and small, that I felt while watching. And I was like, man, I feel like someone who's seen Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade a lot and then watches the 39 Steps for the first time would have that, would probably recognize some of these things.
Right.
Like, and especially if you've watched the 39 Steps for the first time and then you go back and watch Last Crusade, it's really noticeable. I mean, that and like some of the sequences in it, some of the chase sequences are just very similar. I mean, to that and other Hitchcock films, of course, North by Northwest.
Sure. Yeah. So there's a couple things that come to mind as we're talking about this. Well, first of all, we have not covered Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade on the show, but we have covered Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which Indiana Jones 5 currently maybe still in production. I don't know. It may be finished.
No, I think it's still. I think it got pushed back. I think it got pushed back to 2023 in the latest Disney slew of release dates.
Well, I know that it has begun production. That's all I know.
Yes.
So another thing that you made me think about, and this goes back to the theme of this episode, which I am calling Getting to Know Your Armed Assailants, which if you are a fan of the movie Airheads, you would know that that is what Joe Mantegna calls the segment in which he interviews Chaz, played by Brendan Fraser. You mentioned that you put on Indiana Jones and Last Crusade as a movie to have on in the background. Now, you and I both do this. The other day I put on The Last Action Hero just to have on in the background.
Yep.
And I don't think that very many people put on movies just to have on in the background.
I don't know about
because
that.
I mentioned this to somebody the other day and they're just like, wait, what? You do what?
I don't know. I feel like I know people who do this. I don't feel like this is uncommon.
And I'm wondering if that also just, I don't know, maybe it's just because of the people that we've kind of navigated towards throughout our lives, where it's just like, people who watch movies similarly to the way that we watch movies. Many of our past guests on the show would be some of those people.
Yes.
And and I think that for us, it's just like a comforting kind of like white noise that, a lot of people would put on to focus.
Well,
but for us, it's movies.
Yeah, it's that. And sometimes it's music, but like if I need to keep an extended period of focus,
yeah,
I'll put on something. Like I put on JFK. I was trying, also because JFK, there's a lot of work being done, and there's a lot of like he's pulling all these all-nighters doing work. So I'm like, okay, that'll kind of motivate me. That, and plus like the director's cut's like 4 hours long. So
yeah,
you're not like with music. I find if it's a playlist, I wind up like skipping around or like reshuffling the order of things. If it's albums, I'm switching the albums.
Right. Well, also, right. So there's that, but also there's like, music can have, especially if you just have like on I don't know, like a streaming services like playlist that they make. Unless you have complete control over it, you don't know what's going to come next and completely throw you off. Whereas with a movie, if you're just like, I know that JFK is never going to get so wild that I'm going to absolutely lose track of what I'm doing. I mean, some of the Lee Harvey Oswald stuff, I think, gets a little close there. But
I mean, there's wild. Still, I've seen it. I've seen it so many times.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's one of those movies like Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction is another one that I will put on background because just hearing it, and it's got that rhythm and the music in it is great. So
yeah,
kind of depends on what I'm doing, and I don't always do a movie as background while it kind of depends on what I'm doing. And like if it's a lot of just like data entry basically, then I'm fine with something like that. If I'm like reading a bunch of short stories, I need music. I can't have, like narrative. I cannot work with podcasts on.
It depends on the work that I'm doing because, well, you and I do very different work. If I am editing and processing photos, I can listen to a podcast easily because it's a different part of my brain that's working. I don't have to I don't have to think about words. I don't have to, read anything. It's all just like pictures and just image manipulation and stuff like that. And I'm able to have my brain kind of working in several different ways at the same time if I put on a podcast while doing that. And, in a lot of ways, it helps the time go a little bit faster, and I feel like I get more out of it while I'm doing that. Or audiobooks for that matter. And yeah, it's just an interesting thing.
What are your kind of like go-to background movies? Like you said, I think you said Addams Family Values recently was a background movie you had on.
Yep. I put on Addams Family Values because it was just like, it's like a weighted blanket. It's like you put it on and it's just like, it's soothing. The music is nice. The jokes are funny. The jokes that you've forgotten are even funnier. And it's the kind of thing where the movie itself will remind you when it's time to pay attention to it. Like, it kind of gives you these hints where it's just like, oh, this is a David Krumholtz scene. I got to watch this. It's like, you get that kind of thing out of it. So Addams Family Values, that was one that I wasn't putting on with the intention of it being like super in the background, but it worked out that way.
Yeah.
And Last Action Hero, I knew it was going to be a background thing. I think that for me, there are some Paul Thomas Anderson movies that work really well as background because like The Master, the music in it is really like soothing. And there are the parts, of course, where it gets pretty tense. But like overall, there's certain aspects of it where, especially the beginning where he's mostly just like on the beach or on the boat or things like that, where it's just like calming. And I don't know. I don't know if there are any that like I have in like my back pocket that it's always just like you could put it on and everything's going to be fine. Maybe like an Ocean's 11 or something like that is a good one. Yeah. Something where there's just like a lot of people doing a lot of things.
Right. Yeah. It's got to be, and it has to be the type of thing, for me at least, where I've seen it enough times because I've tried like, okay, I'm going to get some work done and then let me put on this new like Netflix movie or whatever. And I have to watch. I don't know it. I have to follow it. And if it's good, I want to follow it. And then if it's good, I want to watch it when I'm not working. So I need those background ones. I think today was the first time I ever worked, or at least first time in a long time I ever worked with JFK on in the background. But
yeah, it's an interesting choice.
It was great.
Yeah,
it was. I mean, it's just one of my favorite movies. And between that and that, it's we're just about at the 30th anniversary of its release. So
yeah, I mean, you have so many great actors in there. We've certainly talked about on our Waterworld episode, we talked a lot about Kevin Costner and kind of our thoughts and feelings about him, and kind of just how JFK is like the just right role for him, where it's like, I just want him to be at work, like I don't want him to be swashbuckling. I just want him to be like sitting behind a desk and getting frustrated.
And which is a large part of JFK. Either he goes to other places and gets frustrated as well.
Sure.
But JFK. All right. So we're going to look at the JFK cast. All right. So first like the big stars, the names, the ones that like when you're playing the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, yeah. So Kevin Bacon, there's one.
Kevin Bacon. Right. Yeah.
Kevin Bacon.
Gary Oldman.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah. Wayne Knight.
Joe Pesci. Well, Wayne Knight to me fits in under the character actors, which is also where I put like Michael Rooker, sure. Like not your headline actors, yes. Like Sissy Spacek. Is it John Candy's actually really good in it,
right? Yeah,
after watching it again,
Candy is in it.
Yeah, and he's really good, and I think he's just like he's perfect for that role. He's like Oliver Platt would play it if it was to be.
If it was a Joel Schumacher.
Well, because basically his character is Harry Rex.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got the right ta-ta, but the wrong ho-ho.
Oh, my goodness. John Candy.
We could play a whole game. Who said it? Dean Andrews and JFK or Harry Rex?
Ooh, I don't know if I'm prepared for anything like that right now.
I am not prepared for that either, but it could happen.
Okay, we'll do that. I don't know. We'll find a time when that's appropriate.
If we ever just do like a John Candy...
Yeah,
tribute. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we could easily do. I mean, October would have been a good candy month, but
True.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
guess December also is a pretty candy heavy month.
or April. I don't know.
Yeah,
We could look. You could also see when his birthday falls.
Anyway,
A lot of different. Anyway, so John Candy, great, is great in that. Who are some of the other? I feel like there's some other big names in it.
I'm kind of blanking. Those are the ones that stick
Costner,
out to
Jones,
me.
Pesci, Oldman, Spacek.
Joe Pesci's so good in it.
Joe Pesci is very good in it. But then, okay, so then you have like the character actors among, Wayne Knight, Michael Rooker, Laurie Metcalf.
Laurie Metcalf is great in it. She doesn't show up that much. She's just in.
No, she's on his team. She's on like his legal team. She's in
okay.
it.
Sorry, I was thinking about with somebody else. It does have Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon.
Oh yes, that's and Ed Asner, right? Yes, okay. Those are the I knew I was forgetting. Right, Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon. They do not, and Donald Sutherland is also in it.
Right, Vincent D'Onofrio.
Vincent D'Onofrio is in it, but like barely. Frank Wiley is in it.
Oh, and we can't forget who plays Jack Ruby. It's Brian Doyle Murray.
Right, BDM. Yes, Brian Doyle Murray as. So you actually have like. I love how this movie has like a decent Second City presence between
That's
Brian
true,
Doyle
yeah.
Murray and John Candy.
Who
else?
That is interesting because it's like. I know that, like, well, speaking of Paul Thomas Anderson, he uses a lot of comedians instead of just finding the same actors that you always see. He finds, like, comedy people to be in his movies, not in comedic roles, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I was trying to think. The only one who I could really think of for me was Martin Short popping up in Inherent Vice.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, like, Paul F. Tompkins is in There Will Be Blood. Like, there's people that, and he's also a voice in Magnolia. I think he's like a phone voice or something in Magnolia.
Oh, okay. All right.
So like,
okay,
he does that. He's kind of, I mean, first he's married to Maya Rudolph. Like he clearly appreciates comedy. So I don't know.
Yeah,
interesting.
But anyway, yeah. So then, back to the cast. I'm trying to think of who else is in the cast of JF. Oh, there's a scene that's in the director's cut, but not in the theatrical cut that features John Larroquette.
Oh, wait. Yes, that's in the director's cut. Then the director's cut is what I watched the last time I saw because I definitely remember him in it. Yeah,
I really don't think that the John Larroquette, because he's a talk show host.
Right.
I really don't think that scene was in the original. The original release. But yeah, so anyway, JFK, great guys. J.O. Russell is in there, who you see him, you'd recognize him. And I know this because I saw him at an ice cream shop once in New York and recognized him. I was like, oh, J.O. Russell from JFK.
Yeah.
But it's such a well-made movie. I think despite and watching it now, I kind of saw that, like, all right, maybe the perspective of this film isn't like Jim Garrison was right about everything, because you definitely see that a lot of his arguments is really based on the like, okay, well, what if? And
yeah, I know. And there's so many JFK assassination conspiracy theories, and maybe one of them out there is right. Maybe no one's ever gotten it right. Who knows? Maybe the way that it was depicted to us as the truth was what's right, but I doubt it.
I just never, I think I had always, watching that movie younger, I always felt that like Oliver Stone was really trying to get Jim Garrison's, theories out there, and was kind of framing them as like, no, he's right. And like when you watch the movie and you think about like, okay, well, where is he actually showing evidence, and where is he just showing like connections that are plausible?
Well, here's one thing that we know Oliver Stone was right about, is that President Bill Mitchell is not who we think he is.
Of course. Yes. And
And for anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, watch the movie Dave.
I mean, talk about a great play on like Oliver Stone's reputation after JFK.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, I still really like JFK. It like doesn't matter to me what's true, what isn't true. It's just such I think a well-made film. And I think the most criminally underrated performance in that film is probably Gary Oldman as Lee Harvey Oswald.
Oh, he's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, but that was just like, that was the movie I decided to work to, because I was like, you know what? I need to get 4 hours of work done. And let's see if I can do
let's move on to some news bits. I pulled some articles that have come out in the past week or so about reboot, remake, sequel, prequel news. And the first one that really caught my attention was, and this is the headline from Slash Film: Midnight Run sequel will star Regina Hall, Robert De Niro to produce. So I guess in like 2010, there were rumors of a Midnight Run sequel that would have Robert De Niro in it. No Charles Grodin, and clearly now he wouldn't be involved, as he has unfortunately passed away. But and there's no indication of whether Robert De Niro will make a cameo or what the plan is. But I guess things are moving. So if they need ideas, they can listen to our Midnight Run episode, and certainly we have many. Do I remember what they are? No, but check it out. Producers, Robert De Niro.
Yeah, so I'm curious. I mean, yeah, sure. Regina Hall. Okay. Great. Is this really like, is it a sequel? Is it really a sequel?
It says sequel.
But like, is it one of those sequels that just is basically a remake, but under the guise of a sequel?
Probably.
Kind of
we
like,
don't know.
And I haven't seen it yet, but I did watch the trailer for it. Home Sweet Home Alone.
Yes.
Basically,
doesn't the trailer look fun?
What?
The trailer looks fun.
It looks like Home Alone.
Yeah, it's out now on Disney Plus.
It looks like a cross between like Home Alone and I want to say like Home Alone 3 or 4.
Right. Well, there was only the 3. I don't think there was.
There was a 4th, but it was not theatrically.
Third
released.
Wasn't theatrically released either.
The third was.
It was?
Third was theatrically released, yes.
But the thing with this new one is like, it seems like they are trying to make it feel like they're not just trying to go like, okay, and then this thing, and then this thing. Like, I don't know. It seems like they're trying to do something new with it, and they've seemed to have found a really strong cast. So I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, it still kind of comes across because they're putting the buzz in there. So
yeah,
that it's like it's canon. So
right, but I think that because I think that there's something different about the fact that that it's coming out this long after any of the like other Home Alones came out. It's like enough time has passed where now it's a little bit more fresh. It's more of a reboot that pays tribute to the original than just like a sequel. Though I think that the third one, it was not even the same family at all.
No.
Yeah.
They lived in a much more modest home, which is not to say they didn't live in a nice home, but
yeah, of course.
No, I think it would be interesting though I'd love to see a mockumentary about the cushy Chicago suburb of, is it Highland Park, where
something like that,
where they are, where apparently there's just like this epidemic of parents that forget their kids.
Yeah, right.
Or just detached parents. It seems to be just like that. They're so wealthy, they just are detached from their families.
Well, they have to pay the mortgage on that gigantic home, so they're always just focused on work.
Do we know what Mr. McAllister or Mrs. McAllister, because it is not, I'm sorry to make assumptions, because it is not established who is the perhaps they are both the breadwinners, perhaps they own a business. Is he hooked up with something? Now, I could see him as being like not necessarily in the mob, but like mob affiliated.
Kind of like an Ozark situation. I don't know if you watched Ozark.
I did. No.
He launders the money for,
No, but exactly. That's what I could see him do. I could see him being almost like a Leo Getz from Lethal Weapon. Speaking of Joe Pesci.
And speaking of news, Mel Gibson is so far set to direct Lethal Weapon 5. That news was from today. I didn't even put that in my notes. But that's some information that's coming up naturally. It's
like, yes, yes, that is.
And there is information. Moving on.
That is indeed information.
Yeah. I will not be watching that one.
No.
Hard pass.
No.
But what I am intrigued by is that Billy Crystal is returning to Broadway in Mr. Saturday Night musical adaptation of 1992 film, according to Deadline.
I saw that. I know someone who went to see it, like wherever it is in like previews or whatever they're doing. But I saw like someone I know posted on Facebook a picture of the program, and I got excited because I saw Lowell Gans and Bob Lou Mandel's names. So.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Saturday Night.
There it is right there. I'm just showing you on the thing.
And it's coming to Broadway.
Yeah, so it begins performances March 1st, 2022, official opening night of March 31st. So that's fun. I feel like that's a good next step for Billy Crystal, is just to be kind of doing his thing on Broadway.
He's the right age.
Yeah.
Like he was very aged up. Like in the flashbacks, he wasn't aged up.
Right.
But so like, I don't know. Does it say like, do they have like a younger actor to play his younger self or?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't go that deep into it.
No, I think David Paymer though is also reprising his role.
Yes. That's cool.
Oh, he was so good in that.
Moving on, this one is not so much a movie one, but Rob Zombie's The Munsters has begun production, and it has the logo to prove it, according to Slash Film. The logo just looks like the Munsters logo, to be honest.
Yeah, I've seen
it. From the original show. So that's happening. We don't really need to talk too much about that. I think that he's a good person to kind of bring that one back, though.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah. What I'm also intrigued by is, this is according to Slash Film, MGM's Roadhouse reboot may be back in business with Jake Gyllenhaal and Doug Liman in talks. Jake Gyllenhaal not having a great week after all of this new Taylor Swift stuff. Have you been on the internet, Dan?
Not the same internet you have, apparently.
Gotcha. Yeah, no.
I haven't been on the Taylor Swift net.
Well, okay. Jake Gyllenhaal is public enemy number one because he was an ass to Taylor Swift when he was dating her with a very inappropriate age gap when she was so young. And he may still have her scarf. Just saying.
Oh, okay. So now a lot of comments and memes are making sense.
Okay. Okay. See, you are on the same internet as I am, except you are just scrolling past.
I don't get the context. So Jake Gyllenhaal and Taylor Swift were at the same performance of God of Carnage that I attended back in, what was it, like 2010 or 2011, whenever they were dating. And it was like a big deal that they were there, and like that they were like rushed out as soon as the performance ended. The one time I saw James Gandolfini up close and personal as we were leaving the theater, and walking past like the alleyway, I guess that the stage door was in, he was kind of standing there on his phone.
I could see James Gandolfini standing by an alleyway.
Yeah, he was just standing there. He was like, on the phone, on his phone, cell phone, like talking. I mean, just
talking to his therapist, probably.
I was not. Nick didn't get any gabagool.
So Dan. Yeah. So Dan, there was also, this is not so much news, but there was an article in or on Lifehacker, and I want you to guess what movie they call out when they mention this question. What movies do people love only because of nostalgia?
The Last Starfighter?
That's just us, I think. It's also
No.
great, and everybody can shove it.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, I'm like, so what movie? What, Transylvania 65000?
No, that's only us.
That's only us. So, like,
What movie did we cover recently where we explained that the nostalgia factor for this movie is through the roof?
Oh, you're asking me to remember things from
We did this one
recent
like
history?
2 episodes ago.
I'm gonna. I have to.
Dan, it's Hook.
What? Oh, Hook. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. If I haven't mentioned, I'm tired. Oh yeah, and Dante Bosco is going to be at the Washington State.
Dante Bosco's keeping it fresh.
Emerald City Comic Con.
Yeah.
Almost making me want to get a ticket and go.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's somebody else who's going to be there too. Anyway, so you said Hook? Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, those were just some little news bits that I thought were a little interesting. But maybe we can shift gears a little bit because Dan, I want to know what for any new listeners or people who just don't know, Dan and I are brothers. We have known each other for nearly 40 years. And we grew up with such a large age gap, like 5.5 years. And when you're super young, that gap seems more like 15, 20 years. It's like we don't live in the same world so much, except at like dinner time. And then, I kind of got like a view of what your life was like. But I want to know from your perspective, what was your kind of like, I don't know, what sparked your interest in movies? Because that was a big thing for you starting very young.
Yeah. And it's kind of hard to place it. I mean, when I was a little kid, like I don't remember really like liking to go to the movies that much.
Really?
And was like scared when the lights went out and all that. When a little kid. But and then there are a lot of movies that I feel like I remember seeing them very young, like on VHS, because we had like one of the first VCRs.
Yeah.
That was what my college friends used to call it when I brought that same VCR to college. They called it the first VCR, yes. And I remember watching, I feel like I remember watching like Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark. I might have just read and listened to like the books on tape so many times, like the kids' ones. I might have done that so many times that I was convinced I saw them. But I really think it was... I don't know what, I mean, I must have been maybe 8 or 9.
Okay.
When it really just became something that I loved doing. And I loved, like, there was something about going to the movie theater and having the lights go down and the trailers were so much more awesome back when you couldn't just like watch them online. And it was like so cool. Or when you didn't know everything about a movie that was going to come out, or like you found out that it existed because of the trailer. Like imagine you're a Marvel fan and you find out that there's an Avengers movie coming out, not from the internet, like before they even go into production, but like when the trailer hits, or just like you hear so much about it, like Batman, like seeing the Batman, like I remember seeing the Batman teaser for the first time because it was so cool. And it was so like, oh man, what is this going to be like? Especially when my only sense of Batman was from like the Super Friends cartoons and the 1960s television show. Yeah. So there was that mystery and that excitement and that like, what am I going to see, or what is the rest of this going to be like? And I feel like a lot of movies that were at the beginning of that for me were like, I think Three Amigos was one that I remember. Like, I just really remember like going to see it and just having a great time and like the lights go down, the movie starts, and you get the studio tag at the front. Not before there were 15 of them. Before the movie. Sorry,
I want to come back to that, by the way. So
I'm going to be
keep going.
grumpy old Manning. But like, I think about just sitting in the movie theater and, seeing the Orion stars come together, the TriStar Pegasus come galloping towards me, the universal planet, et cetera, and just feeling like excited and like, all right, so for the next, hour and a half, 2 hours, I am in that world. I'm in that world that's up on the screen.
Right.
So it was so exciting and cool. And I just felt like, wow, this is how I want to watch things. So much so that when Letterboxd VHS became available, and we've talked about this, I think definitely on the Interspace episode and almost definitely on the Fargo episode as well. But even on my 13-inch television, I preferred Letterboxd VHS because I felt like it felt like, all right, now I'm watching it on the big screen.
Yeah, well, also it's just like I'm watching it as it was intended to be seen. I'm seeing all of it. Like, but no, I know what you mean. There's the psychology of like the darkness around
like,
it.
I'm looking at it and I'm just like, you know what? It's like I'm sitting in a really, really, really big theater and I'm sitting really far back.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about this on the Fargo episode. That's how I watched Fargo for the first time, was on your 13-inch TV, watching that VHS tape.
And great
edition.
movies. It's like when I think about these movies, like, oh yeah, I should really watch this on Blu-ray, or I should really try to get to the theater for this. I think of all the great movies that I saw for the first time, whether it was on the 13-inch television or something comparable on like VHS, pan and scan. I mean, the first time I saw The Exorcist, one of my favorite movies, it was an edited for television version.
Huh.
It was taped off of the USA Network.
Interesting. Right.
So,
we did talk about that on our Exorcist episode. God, we've done a lot of shows.
Yeah. And so I think the other thing is just like the power of a really great movie and a really well-made movie, or just the power of entertainment and getting lost in something, like going to the movie theater. And like one of my favorite parts of going to see the Police Academy movies in the theater was honestly like the Warner Brother logo coming up to the opening of the theme.
Yes. Okay. So you're mentioning something a lot that I was intending on coming back to, but now feels like a good opportunity. But like, do you have a favorite studio logo? And I don't mean like because of the movies that the studio produced or anything like that, but like, is there a studio logo that will always give you like some sort of sense memories, or like that really like strikes a chord with you? I'd love to. I don't want to like put thoughts into your head, but let me know.
They're already there.
They're already there. Okay, so what are you thinking?
So, all right. Well, okay. So it's interesting because if you were to just ask me like my favorite logo, it would have a lot more to do with the movies and not like the motion of the logo. Cause I love the Warner Brothers logo. I love the like late 80s Warner Brothers logo, but it's kind of, simple. There's not much to it. But if we're going to talk about logos with the animation and the music and things that just take me back to a specific time or place, of course, Canon is a must. I would say like the old also like fuck Harvey Weinstein, but Miramax, the old like just the old kind of like with the M traveling logo, like the early to mid 90s Miramax logo. And then there was another one.
But the Miramax one is interesting because you knew that you were watching something that wasn't mainstream necessarily.
Right.
So like there was something that was exciting about like, it's kind of like how A24 is now, where like you know that you're going to see something that's like a little fringy and different. Yeah.
It's a little dangerous. You don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
So that was what I liked about that. The Carolco logo, which I feel like most people would probably see before Terminator 2, and then did they do Total Recall as well, I think?
Did they also do some of the Rambo movies?
Oh, they might have done like Rambo 3.
Yeah, something like that. Like I feel like I remember it with like some Stallone stuff. Yeah.
But I thought the Karolko logo was always really. I mean, of course. I'm sorry. I know you asked me for one, but
Oh no. This is fine. It's such an interesting thing. It's all it is it's letting people know what studio had this made. But it got to a point where certain things became synonymous with certain feelings. Like, a lot of people probably associate the MGM lion with maybe a Bond movie or something.
Or the Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz, that's right. Or maybe, Columbia Pictures makes you think of Ghostbusters. And there are certain ways that, and certain ways that certain films, and I know this is done a lot more now, but like, was it in Raiders of the Lost Ark when the Paramount logo then goes to a mountain?
Yeah, they did that for all the Indiana Joneses.
They did it for all of them. That's right. Yeah.
If you look at other places where that's done, like even like the 20th Century Fox logo in Cannonball Run, has like the cars chasing on it, and I feel like the Fox logo, they've done that a lot with like with Aliens. It'll kind of go like askew, or with the Abyss, I feel like it went into like the boop.
Yeah.
Boop.
Yeah.
So like they do that with Fox a lot. And like Universal sometimes they'll do it.
Universal, because Waterworld being one of them.
Waterworld, yeah. I feel like Basketball is another one that used the Universal logo that way. I can't think of too many more.
No, I mean, if this is all off the dome, then it is certainly a kind of an impressive list already.
Okay, so other favorite specialty logos. I've got to go with the Universal Studios 1990, which was like the mashup of all the. It was like the montage of all of the Universal logos, and it ended with kind of that new one. I think of like Kindergarten Cop with that logo. There's that one. There's the Paramount 75, which was during the summer of 1987. So it's like you'll see that in front of things like Beverly Hills Cop 2, Summer School, and summer of 1987 was such an iconic summer for movies that Paramount 75 that Paramount 75 logo really takes me there. That, and I feel like that one and the Universal logo are very much like those 1987 like logo.
What's also interesting to me is I feel like the one that really started it all, United Artists, really doesn't have, like, with that one hasn't come up at all. It's such an
It's interesting though that you mention it, because I thought of it a moment ago.
Okay.
Because you mentioned James Bond, and I was like, no, you know what? I actually think of the United Artists, but I think of like how it was in the 80s. Like I think about the Living Daylights with you'd have the MGM thing, but then it would have like the United Artists with like that slick sounding synth sound.
Yeah.
Going, and then you just go straight to like you see James Bond down the barrel of the gun.
Yeah. But no, we've definitely talked about the TriStar Pegasus before, and that's a really fun one. That one's really cool because you have like a lot more like movement to it. It's not just TriStar, like you have the Pegasus, and that's a lot of fun. I don't know. I think that it's a really fascinating, thing that's kind of come about out of necessity. And I do love it when they incorporate those logos somehow, because it makes it feel just like everything's more intentional.
It also feels like the studio has a part, and I mean, this is something that has changed a lot, is that like the studios did used to have their identities. And there were like Warner Brothers always did the gritty crime dramas.
Oh,
that was what you had. MGM did the big musicals.
Yeah,
I think Columbia was like the comedies.
And like Touchstone was going to be like, family friendly, but like not for the little kids,
Right. Well, no, Touchstone wasn't even always family friendly.
That's true.
Touchstone,
That's true.
you got your Ruthless Peoples, your
Yeah.
Down and Out in Beverly Hills.
I know we've done some other Touchstone stuff on the show before.
Yeah, Touchstone was a fun studio. Touchstone was like the studio that you knew they probably weren't going to be getting nominated for major Academy Awards, but
they made money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and it was, that was, I like the Touchstone logo, actually. That's kind
cool.
of a nostalgia one.
Yeah.
That was a very...
I mean, the Orion one, I think it was always one that I enjoyed, and it is nice to see that one again.
Yes.
Back from the dead.
Gone, but not forgotten.
And I'm sure that movies have played with that logo before. I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but...
No, I actually... and. All of the Orion films that I'm familiar with, actually, no. I cannot think of one that has played with the Orion.
Someone has to have done it. I'm going to watch every Orion movie, just the first minute.
It Dances with Wolves. Yeah. No. Orion, speaking of Billy Crystal, another great joke, that one Oscar ceremony that I always remember.
Oh.
Because he talks about Orion Pictures going bankrupt, and he talks about how all of the Orion films that had won Best Picture, and I think Silence of the Lambs had either been nominated that year or had been nominated the year before or whatever. But yeah, he made some joke about how it was just they were too successful.
Yeah,
with all of their mammoth Best Picture winners. I guess you had those, and then you had FX.
Right.
I think was an Orion picture.
FX.
I might be wrong. I don't know. FX, good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about it another time.
So anyway, thank you for sharing kind of your background about loving movies, because, everybody comes to it in their own different ways, and or they don't come to it at all.
Well, tell us a little bit about because you actually are, you do still work with film, and
I do.
You went to film school,
right? So, all right. Here's my resume, which begins with me having a bedroom right next to yours, where you had all of the VHS tapes. I feel like it's been long enough where we can say that there's a lot of things that were taped off of HBO or dubbed from Blockbuster movies, and also you had the one sheets from movies plastered all over your walls from Premiere Magazine. And I think that the influence of that just kind of it became just a part of my everyday, where it's just that is a thing. And it's not like I remember necessarily going to movies specifically as a kid. I know I went a lot and frequently. And I remember fondly going into the paper and taking a look at the show times. And that was the most fun section of the newspaper, because you got to see the little posters for everything that was out. And you just got to look up and see this one's playing at this one at this time and this one. And, it was just exciting to do that. And just I don't know, the smell of the paper, that's what I think about when I, feel a newspaper, is the experience of going to that page with just all those little, rectangles. And that was always just really exciting. And when I was about 15, it's when I started to play around with video making and things like that. And it kind of caught on quickly. I got really into making little videos and stuff like that. And it became clear to me when I was, sophomore, junior in high school, that I wanted to do something with that. And I went to school for film, and I didn't as much gravitate towards the production side of things, more of this film studies side of things, mostly because I just loved watching movies. It wasn't so much the making them that really got me jazzed. It was the watching them and seeing all of the things that connected to other movies and the meanings behind things, and that was always fascinating to me. I actually recently was in touch with one of my old college professors at Temple University. His name is Dan Friedlander, and he has agreed to take part in my project Statue of Limitations, which if you go to statueoflimitations.net, you can see what that's all about. We've talked about it a lot on the show. And his classes were always so great because he just introduced me to so many movies that I never would have thought to watch before. And it taught me a lot about, I don't know, the different countercultures in film. And it was always very fascinating to me to kind of explore that side of things. And I worked at a movie theater in Philadelphia. I don't know if it's still called this, but it was the Ritz 5 when I was there back in the mid 2000s. I think that the Landmark Theaters bought it. I don't know if they changed the name. And it was not a like huge blockbuster movie place. It was more on the independent side. You know, I remember seeing things like A History of Violence and just like those kind of movies that, critics love, but don't get the big bucks coming in. And the Constant Gardener, that was one that was going, it was like that time, 2005, where it's just like, there were a lot of very like, I don't know, I feel like the movies were just more serious. I don't know. It was a bit of a bummer. But there was a lot of fun stuff. I don't know. There was a lot of fun stuff too. No, I don't mean just that one. Like a lot of the movies that were coming out then, and I got to experience filmmakers like Miranda July, and and a lot of those kind of like fringy new filmmakers that were kind of up and coming at the time, and just getting exposed to that was really fun. And I went to a lot of like advanced screenings for things just because of working there. Tomorrow night, I'm actually going to an event screening of, get ready, Being the Ricardos.
Oh.
Coming to Amazon Prime soon, but coming to this screening tomorrow.
Interesting. And, okay.
Yeah,
have you been listening to the new season of The Plot Thickens?
No.
Which is it's about Lucille Ball. So Turner Classic Movies, their wonderful podcast, The Plot Thickens, which is on its third season.
Sure.
And it's all about Lucille Ball.
Cool. I gotta check that out.
I've been listening to it. It's very interesting.
I'm gonna listen to it while I'm editing photos. Yeah. So I worked in reality TV for quite a while. I'd started doing it in Philadelphia and in New York, and then I moved to Los Angeles, and I produced story for reality shows. I wanted to get into film, but it's just like, it's really hard. I was an extra in a lot of stuff, and that was just a way to pay the bills, but it was a lot of fun to be on a lot of the lots and just to like be part of film production. Some of them that I was in was like Step Brothers and Hancock, and for TV, it was like a lot of Desperate Housewives and stuff like that. And then, then life took me to, what's up?
What of your background performances stands as your favorite, or perhaps the quintessential John background performance?
The quintessential might have been a Halloween episode of Desperate Housewives. That's what you're nodding about.
I was thinking that, and I was wondering if that was going to be what you said.
Yeah, and shout out to my pal Turna. She and I met on, I think, Step Brothers, and we ended up doing a bunch of things unintentionally together, and we were on this one Halloween episode of Desperate Housewives together. I had a bizarre encounter with Kyle MacLachlan. It was great. And I was dressed as a cow because it took place at a Halloween party. And I don't know. It's like not like there were a ton of us. And it was like 2 nights, and they were full like all night shoots. It was a lot of fun. And it was in the Universal backlot, and we're at the houses from Desperate Housewives. I did another episode of that one where it was at like a funeral, but I was not dressed as a cow for that one.
That's unfortunate.
Sorry. But yeah, then life took me here to Portland, and where I now work at the Portland Art Museum. And I do a lot of work with the Northwest Film Center, which is part of the Portland Art Museum. And I'm loving doing that. It's a fantastic organization. And it's really exciting to see all the things that are kind of coming about in the coming years. Nothing that I can talk about, but a lot of things that I know about that are going to be happening that are very exciting. And yeah, it's just fun to be involved with that, and to be able to do this podcast, Dan, with you, because as anybody who knows us would know, when we are together, this is what we sound like. This is what we talk about. And for most, it is annoying. And but you know what? It's just how we think, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different movie related things that we could talk about. And
yeah.
It's nice to talk about the aspects of movies that are not the movies themselves.
Sure. And just one other quick thing. It's like, this is a thing about the two of us that, really ties those 5.5 year age gap together, and it's like, now we're in the same stages in our life. It's not even a thing, but like, because we have this, it's just like a constant point of conversation starts, which is always fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, this is it's like my guaranteed time during the week when I just know like that I'm going to talk movies.
Yeah.
I'm going to be talking movies.
Yeah.
I like have to. And because I love doing it. I love talking movies so much that I will constantly make references to movies, even in my daily teaching job to students. And there's always like one kid who will get it. Almost always. There's one kid where if I'm just like, oh yeah, no, this reminds me of this thing in this movie. You probably haven't heard of it, Miller's Crossing. And then the one kid will be like, oh, the Danny Boy scene. And I'll be like, oh you're my new favorite.
Wow.
No,
that's impressive.
That specifically has never happened. But here's a really good example of the podcast kind of infiltrating life. Is the other day we were getting ready before our performance of the 39 Steps, and I forget how it came up, but one of the kids who's working on, I believe it was one of our sound designers, was talking about having seen Harold and Maude and not being, and was kind of like, yeah, no, you know what movie I just don't know what to make of is Harold and Maude.
Oh, really?
And I was kind of like, yeah, okay. All right. I get that. Let's talk about it. I'm like, yeah, it's a different movie. If you're used to like, I feel like most young audiences are used to like, what you are going to see. If you are being told that you are going to see a silly comedy, you are going to see a silly comedy. Yeah. And Harold and Maude is not confined by by genre or rules, really. And so we were talking about it and talking about like just the deeper meanings of it. And I think he walked away from it feeling like that maybe the next time he sees it, he'll have a better appreciation for it, because I also shared with him and said, you know what? It's a movie that took me a few tries to get into.
And it helps to watch it at different times in your life, because you come to it with different, background. And that's really cool that this student of yours, didn't have to feel like they needed to have a solid opinion on it. It's not just a black and white, I love it or I hate it kind of a situation. Yeah. It's like, I'm not sure how I'm feeling about this one. And that's cool. That's really cool.
That's especially for a film like Harold and Maude. That's a movie that should have you thinking about it afterwards. It should have you asking other people about it. Yeah, but it's nice. It's always fun when a movie, and it's just interesting, like the movies that they know of, the ones that they know of from like the 80s and early 90s versus the ones that they don't. I'm hoping I might have turned a whole bunch of them on to Throw Mama from the Train recently mentioning that, but like they don't, these kids love Danny DeVito, but
yeah, we were talking about this off mic the other day. Kids these days love that Danny DeVito.
They love Danny DeVito and Rick Astley. So if you ever go back in time to like 1988 and you want to shock the hell out of some people, tell them what the high school kids are into in 2021. Yeah. Rick Astley and Danny DeVito.
There you go.
But yeah, so it came up because one of the actors in the show, his name was Owen, and we were looking for him, and I'm like, you know, I'm always tempted to just go, Owen. And they got it. But then, of course, it's like you're telling them, and you're like, yeah, because the actress who plays his mother is really like, oh, wait, you guys have seen The Goonies, right? Of course. Ma Fratelli.
Right.
Oh.
Anne Ramsey.
Yeah. So that's always really cool. That's always fun. How about movie posters? I'm curious, like, what are your, like, let's talk about some of the best and maybe worst.
Well, here's the thing. I love foreign versions of movie posters.
Yes.
And there are different, like, social media accounts that have these. There's a book that I have called Translating Hollywood. And my favorite one from that, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Poland does the coolest versions of posters, because the Polish Tootsie poster is so cool. I have a print of it framed. There was one that I saw the other day that was another Polish version of a movie poster, and I was like, man, Poland is doing it right.
If Tootsie was directed by Lars von Trier in the 90s, this is the poster it would have had. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I mean, I definitely do love Saul Bass's work. I mean, our podcast artwork is obviously Saul Bass inspired, mostly because, you know, he was so iconic in especially those, like, you know, Hitchcock movies and things like that. So I do love Saul Bass posters. That Polish Tootsie one is great. You know, there are certain ones that I think about a lot, but I don't know if they're necessarily great. And like we were saying before, you know, you had movie posters and movie one sheets, you know, covering all of your walls, and you know, the ones that I just like remember seeing all the time were like Terminator 2 and, you know, like those. So I just think about those a lot, and it's like, that's not necessarily a good movie poster, but
no,
it's effective. And, you know, I'm sure that they could have done a whole lot better, but you know, whatever works.
That the simplicity of that movie poster actually pays off in, is it I think it's Last Action Hero.
Oh, Last Action Hero.
Where it's
Stallone.
It's Stallone, which that would have been a lot harder to pull off with a more intricate movie poster.
Yeah. I don't know, Dan, movie posters for you. What are some of your favorites?
I think I always have to start with Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice is good. You mean the one where it's got like the house and he's on
there's so much, because there's so many little details in it. And it shows you what it needs to show you to get you into the movie. But it also has other things where if you go back and look at the poster after seeing the movie, you're like, oh, right, that.
Yeah. You know, it is interesting. And I think that you also get that. And now, because they released the posters and everyone's looking for all the details, especially with like Star Wars ones or the Marvel movies.
Oh, yeah.
I think that, you know, that look of those like Star Wars movie posters, the like hand painted look and
Drew Struzan.
Yeah. Like, you know, those are certainly really iconic. I can't say they're my favorite, but that's just me. I don't know. It's
like, so I think about, all right, so Beetlejuice, and I'm just thinking of like whatever the one sheets were for American theaters.
Yeah.
But I think about that one. The Ghostbusters poster is another one that like very simplistic, but it's just so good. The Ghostbusters and 1989 Batman, where it's just like
very simple,
but effective.
Yeah. Same, I think, with Jaws. That's a really effective and pretty simple one. It's not as simple as like Batman.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think about some ones that maybe stood out to me. Not necessarily, I think, the best, but one that certainly made an impression is Silence of the Lambs.
Right. Yeah, it's a cool poster. Cape Fear also has a cool poster.
I don't remember Cape Fears.
Cape Fear, it's where it's got like the water and
Okay.
there's like the picture of the family. Hold on. I think it's like De Niro's eyes. And yeah, so it's like it's a really cool like layered poster where towards the top of it you've got the names, and then you've got like a long shot of the houseboat on the river, and then you've got like De Niro's like eyes, and then there's like this photograph in the water of the family, and I think there's even a tear in the photograph between Nick Nolte and Juliette Lewis.
Oof.
So there's a lot. There's a lot going on in that.
You know what poster I do really like, and it's not like this is my favorite movie or anything, but I love the poster for Mean Streets.
Oh, for Mean Streets.
Yeah,
it's got a cool poster to it.
Yeah. I like the poster for After Hours, which is that's a movie I do like a lot.
Maybe
my favorite Scorsese.
Awesome poster for After Hours. Speaking of Scorsese, I think Goodfellas has got a great poster.
Yeah.
To it. Clockwork Orange, got to go back to one of my other favorites.
Sure.
Just a fantastic poster.
I think that, I mean, the thing I think that I like the most about Mean Streets is that it kind of tells you nothing. It's just really cool artwork.
Right. Oh, I'm looking at it now. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a really striking image, and it's like black, white, and red, I want to say. Yeah,
like reddish orange, like it gets deeper as it goes up, but yeah, you see kind of like the part of the skyline, and
yeah, it's cool. It's like just so graphical and illustrative, and I don't know, it's really neat. I like it a lot.
That's a cool one. Vertigo, Vertigo's got a cool poster. Pulp Fiction.
Saw Bass.
Pulp Fiction.
Well, Pulp Fiction is doing, that's another just like iconic one. Like they really nailed it with that one.
Yeah.
We could go on. It's,
there's
no end to
it's
this.
Just, it's interesting because there's some posters.
But I don't know if I have a favorite. You don't know if you have a favorite. I mean, the Polish Tootsie poster, I think is my favorite. And it's not like Tootsie's my favorite movie, as we've discussed on our Tootsie episode.
It's a cool look. I mean, look, like Vertigo's got a great poster. I don't love it. I mean, other posters that are really great without really doing much. There's something about the Exorcist poster that I really like, and it's like just that one shot.
Yes. Well, that's what I like, posters that don't tell you everything. They they intrigue you, they draw you in. But they don't feel like they need to show you like all the characters, or like they could have easily shown Linda Blair in all the makeup, and it would not be nearly as effective.
No. Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
It's a poster that just does what it needs to do. I mean, the tagline is practically the star of that poster.
Yeah.
Try to think of some, like, I'm like, what are some David Lynch
65 million years in the making? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. Try to think of like some good David Lynch posters, because I guess the poster
Eraserhead is pretty iconic.
Yeah, Wild at Heart. Wild at Heart is a really good.
That's a good one.
Edward Scissorhands has a nice poster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is also there's so many variations of posters that you see now that it's like, it's a little different.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's always like, and then there's the alt poster and this and that. But like, you go back to the iconic ones. But Dan, I'm looking at the time. We're really, we were starting this thing where you're just like, I'm tired. I don't know what if we're really talking about.
I do have another point about
bring it
about the movie movie poster art. One of my favorite things is that when I'm scrolling through streaming titles and you get like so you have like the big hit. So like, let's say, for example, Christmas movie season is upon us. So you'll see like, okay, Love Actually. Oh, great. Love Actually is streaming. And then you'll see some other movie that's like a Hallmark Christmas movie that wants you to like think it's Love Actually. So they like use the same poster.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it happens so often.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you're scrolling through like Netflix or something and you're just like, oh, that looks like this. And then it's like, oh, no. That's how they're just trying to get you.
Yeah, no, it's called Really Romance or something.
Yeah. Or the Arrested Development version, Love Indubitably.
Yeah.
So, Dan,
Yeah.
one thing that we did not talk about before we started recording is what we're going to do on our next episode.
Oh, yeah, we did.
So why
not
don't we pick
discuss
something that we just talked about the poster for?
Do you have one? Is this like drum roll waiting
I'm freestyling here. That's what we're doing this episode. I'm
Yeah.
thinking maybe we do Mean Streets. Maybe we do. I don't know if I want to do Jurassic Park because there's so much Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And Batman, clearly that's well-worn territory. But yeah, I don't know. Is there something that's come up that's making you feel like, you know what? I could talk about that. And no, I don't think that we're going to do JFK.
No, I mean, ironically, I could talk about JFK. But yeah, no, I get it. That's a big ask.
Well, also it's it's based on reality and, it's a real, yeah.
I do. I feel like I have more. I feel like I actually have more to say about JFK than I do some of the other movies that we've done, where I've just gone into it being like, I don't know what we're going to do with this, and not jokingly. I'm not like, oh, JFK the musical.
Oh yeah.
So what was I thinking? Oh, there was something I was thinking of earlier today that I thought this would be a great one to do. And now it has escaped my mind. I'm not quite sure.
Okay. I'm trying to help you with this one, but I don't know where your mind's been at.
I'm looking at all the stuff. I'm looking at all the posters. We've done a lot of them. We've done Tootsie. We've done Beetlejuice. For obvious reasons, we've done The Exorcist.
Yep.
We've done so much.
One thing that I want, while you're thinking about this, one thing I did want to mention, and I meant to mention this on an episode a few weeks ago, but two movies that that share a very similar visual style poster wise are The Thing and The Abyss, and I love that a lot, but I feel like it was confusing for me when I was younger because I would maybe have an association between the two of them because their posters had very similar looks to them. Anyway, that's just a
darkness
thing I was
with a bright light coming out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at our list that we have that we occasionally use.
Oh,
I mean, I know we've mentioned The Last Action Hero a few times today.
You want to do Last Action Hero?
Let's do Last Action Hero.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, Jack
Why
Slater
not?
returns on the next episode of Ruined Childhood.
I assure you, it will not be a big mistake.
Oh my God! All right, well, Dan, thank you for going on this good journey with me.
It been indeed a good journry. I've enjoyed,
and I hope that
this.
everybody listening enjoyed this kind of departure from what we normally do. If you're somebody who listens regularly, it was fun. This was fun for us. If no one listens past 1 minute, I totally understand, but this was fun for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll do this again, and who knows what we're gonna talk about. Like there were a lot of topics that I had in mind that did not even come up. So,
well, we'll save them for another time.
More fuel for the fire.
Well, Dan, on this this journey we call life, I wish you a good one.
And a good journey to you, and to you, and to you, and you, and you.